Hi everyone and welcome back to AV Vlog. In this video we are going to see this basic HTML5 tutorial. So let's start. So firstly let's see what is HTML and what it is used for. Now HTML is the abbreviation for Hypertext Markup Language. Now note that HTML is a markup language and it's not a programming language. Now HTML is basically used for front-end web development. There are basically two types of web developments. One is front-end and the other is back-end. Now front-end web development is developing the content that's being displayed on the web page, like the text and the images, videos, audio, etc. Now the back-end is related to servers for storing data and manipulating that data, user credentials, etc. Next, let's see where does HTML code run. Now HTML code mainly runs on browsers, for example like Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, etc. Now let's see where should we write our code. Now we should write our code in a code editor. Now some examples of code editors are Visual Studio Code, Sublime Text, and there are many more code editors out there. Now I am going to use Visual Studio Code in this tutorial, but you can also use Notepad. Next, let's see how to install Visual Studio Code. Now to install Visual Studio Code, open up your browser and then search for Visual Studio Code. And then click the first link, which is like code.visualstudio.com. And then download it according to your operating system. Now, if you click it according to your operating system, it will download an installer, and that installer will take you through the installation process. Now this is how Visual Studio Code looks like. Now before starting to code, we need to install some extensions. So click this extensions tab right here. And then search for an extension called Live Server. It's this one. And what this extension does is whenever we save our code, it automatically runs it in our browser. Now if you don't have this extension installed, then you have to manually go to your web browser and reload the page. So you need to click an install button. There'll be an install button over here. You need to click that, and after that gets installed, we can start to code. After installing that extension, we need to create a folder on our desktop, and then click on the file menu in Visual Studio Code and then click on open folder right here. Now you need to locate your folder and click select folder, and then Visual Studio Code will open the folder. Now click on this add a new file icon right here, and you need to you can keep whatever name for that file. You can keep whatever name you want, but make sure to add .html extension. Now every HTML file should have this .html extension, and click enter. And now we can start writing our code. Now before we start writing our code, I want to talk about the basic tags in HTML. Okay, so now let's look at some basic HTML tags. Now every HTML document should have an HTML tag. Now to code a tag, you need to add a less than sign and then type the name of the tag and then close it with a greater than sign. Now this is an opening tag. Now most of the tags in HTML will have a closing tag. Now for a closing tag, you just need to add a / before the name of the tag. And that's the HTML tag. So let's go to Visual Studio Code. Now I forgot to mention one thing. In the top of our HTML document, we need to add one element called doc type. It's like doc type. You have to add an exclamation mark, doc type in capital, and HTML. And note that HTML is not case sensitive, so even if I type this in lowercase, I won't get any error. Now what this element does is that it declares the type of this file. Now the type of this document is HTML, so that's what it does. Now below that we can type our HTML tags. So just type HTML and Visual Studio Code will give you that auto completion, and hit enter, and that's it. Now we should write all of our code within these HTML tags. Now the next basic tag in HTML is the title tag. Now the title tag is used for giving title to our web pages. The title tag should have a closing tag also. So now inside of our HTML tags, let's add a title tag. Now inside these title tags, we can give the name of our website. For example, we can just type like my first web page. Now let's just right click here and then click open with live server. Now there is no content in our web page because we didn't add any content, but you can see that the title is my first web page over here. Now let's look at the next basic HTML tag. The next basic HTML tag is the body tag. Now we write all of our code in the body tag. Now like tags like the heading tag and for the tags for adding images and all will go inside the body tag. Now let's see this in Visual Studio Code. Okay, so now I have opened up my browser next to Visual Studio Code for convenience. Now let's add our body tag. So after the title tag, type body and select this. Now inside here we need to write all of our code. Now let's look at the next basic HTML tag. Now the next basic tag is heading tags. Now there are 6 heading tags: H1, H2, H3, H4, H5 and H6. Now all of these have closing tags. Now H1 means the most important heading and it's the biggest heading, and this is like a hierarchy, like the most important heading to the least important heading. Now this will be the biggest heading and this will be the smallest heading. Now let's see that in Visual Studio Code. Okay, so inside of our body tag, let's add H1 and select this, and it will automatically add an opening tag and a closing tag. Now between these two tags you can type anything you want. Let's just say heading 1. Now if I save it in here, you need to click Ctrl S. And then you need to refresh it here. And then we can see that heading 1 is printed. Now this is the first time we saved this, so that's why you need to reload this web page once. Then the next time onwards, whenever you save it, this will reload automatically. So now let's just see the next. Now if I save it, you can see that H1 is the biggest heading. Let me just make the browser a little bit bigger. Now H1 is the biggest heading and H2 is smaller and gets smaller and smaller until heading 6. So heading 6 means the least important heading. So that's heading tags. Now let's look at the next basic HTML tag. Now the next basic tag is the paragraph tag. Now the paragraph tag is used for making paragraphs. Now let's see that in Visual Studio Code. Alright, so now in Visual Studio Code, I'm just going to delete all of these headings and I'm going to type P. Now P is for paragraph tag, and inside these tags, if you type something like, now if you want to generate some dummy text, you can just type like LOREM followed by the number of words. So let's say lorem 50. Now this generates some dummy text in Latin. So let's save this and we can see it converts it into a paragraph. Now we can also add another paragraph like this, P, and then you can type lorem, and then save it. And then we can see that 2 paragraphs are there. Now the next basic HTML tag is the line break tag. Now this is used for adding line breaks. Now this is a kind of special tag because this is a self-closing tag. So that means it doesn't need a closing tag. Now let's see this in Visual Studio Code. Alright, now in Visual Studio Code, let's just say that we need space between these 2 paragraphs. After the first paragraph, type BR and select that. And that's it. Now, if I save this by clicking Ctrl S, you can see that a break is added over here. Now you can use multiple break tags like here and save it. And that's it. That's the break tag. Now let's see the next basic HTML tag. Now the next basic HTML tag is the image tag. Now this tag is used for adding images. Now let's see this in Visual Studio Code. Now to add an image to our website, first we need to add an image to Visual Studio Code. Now to do that, first we need to create a new folder. So click this icon and I'm going to call that folder images. Now you need to drag and drop an image into this folder. Now I have added an image to the folder. Now to add the image to the web page, after the paragraph tag, type img. Now that's short for image. Click enter. Now this also has only one tag, and you can see there is these attributes. Now these are called attributes, these src and alt. They are short for source and alternate. Now inside this source attribute, we need to give the name of our file. But it's inside a folder, so we need to add the folder name first. So it's images / the name of the file. And then this source attribute tells us that this is the source for our image. Now the alternate attribute means we are going to supply alternate text if the image does not load. For example, like if we have a typo in this file name, then display this text. That's what we're telling the browser to do. Let's just say a picture. So if I run this now, if I save this, you can see that image is printed. Now this image is too big actually. So you can see that the image is there. Now let's see what the alternate attribute does. So let's just have a typo in this file name. Let me just add a D here. Now this is the wrong name of the folder, so this image won't be shown. Instead of that, this text will be shown. Now this can also be used when a user has some internet issues and it can't load the image. Instead of that, this text will be printed. So let me just save this in Visual Studio Code, and we can see that only this text is printed. And that's it for this tutorial.